If you're building a consulting business right now, there's one question you can't ignore. Is AI going to kill it? My name is Faris Al-Hulu. I've spent nearly 30 years in Silicon Valley building businesses, including an 8-figure consulting firm I sold to a global media giant. I've lived through these types of technology upheavals before, and I've seen what separated the survivors from the casualties. After also breaking down how top consulting firms like McKinsey and others are adapting to AI right now, a pretty clear pattern emerges. In this video, I'll walk you through the critical shifts that your consulting and professional services firm can also make so you become more valuable, not obsolete. But first, let's address the real concern. If AI really is this powerful, is consulting actually going away? The fear you're feeling is not irrational. Some aspects of consulting are getting replaced or at least shrunk by AI capabilities. Clients are getting less willing to pay for some types of research, reporting, and even analysis that have been consulting mainstays for decades. But when you look at what's happening more broadly, particularly with the big consulting firms, you'll get clarity and encouragement. They're not cutting investments or waiting this out. Instead, they're doing the opposite. Every major consulting firm is investing in AI. Deloitte alone has committed $3 billion to generative AI development. These firms have the most to lose. Their entire model is built on expertise and advisory, exactly the areas people think AI is replacing. And yet, instead of pulling back, they're accelerating adoption. They're embedding AI into their delivery and reshaping how they serve clients because they know something simple. Companies adopting AI still need help making it work. So these consulting firms are looking at AI not as a replacement, but as an enhancement or even a force multiplier for their capabilities and the engine for new kinds of opportunities. Now, does this mean that they'll need fewer staff to serve their clients? Yes, especially in non-client facing roles like research that serve the client-facing consultants. But the big companies clearly see continuity for themselves and for consulting as a business model if they take advantage of emerging technologies. So the real questions become, what do they see that most people don't? And more importantly, how can you follow their example? They see that the value isn't going away, it is moving, it is shifting. A point of clarification. Now, you might be thinking, what does what McKinsey or Deloitte do have to do with me? A lot more than you think, because historically, this is how these shifts play out. Large consulting firms don't just ride these waves, they help validate and scale them across the market. Let me give you an example. When Salesforce and other CRM systems took off, large consulting firms built massive practices around these systems and helped enterprise companies adopt them. But the real explosion of opportunity happened after that. Thousands of smaller consultants built highly profitable businesses by helping mid-sized companies implement those same systems faster, cheaper, and more hands-on. They didn't invent the trend, they applied it. AI is following the exact same pattern. The difference is, it's happening much faster. The pattern, disruption creates new opportunities. Now, this kind of uncertainty feels new, but if you zoom out, we've actually seen technology revolutions play out before. In my years in Silicon Valley, including as a top global partner for Google and as a technology customer myself, I saw every major tech wave provoke the same mix of awe and anxiety. We saw it at the dawn of the internet, during the dot-com era, through the rise of mobile and with cloud, data, and automation. Tasks that used to take weeks suddenly took minutes. Entire roles became less valuable or disappeared entirely. But at the same time, entirely new industries were created. I remember marketing consultants who immediately got their hands dirty with website design and development in the mid to late 1990s were in a great position to take advantage of the many opportunities that came a few years later with the Google search engine and paid ads. The smart people who benefited did not know exactly which direction the wave was moving, but they were riding it. They adopted tools early and reskilled. If they were working as consultants or service providers, they stayed 2 or 3 or 10 steps ahead of where their clients were. At this point, though you can't know exactly how AI is going to impact your industry, you can be quite certain that it will. And you can also be quite certain that you, as a newer or smaller consultant, will put yourself in the best position for emerging and future opportunities by taking a lead position, getting hands-on with the technology and observing how larger consulting companies are adapting in the time of change. So in the rest of this video, we're going to look at where companies, including big enterprises, are using AI to replace certain aspects of consulting, where they are struggling with AI, how the big consultancies are trying to help their big clients with AI, and how you can do the same as a newer consultant for smaller clients, and then how you can start by enhancing your existing offerings with AI. What AI is actually replacing. So to understand where to put your focus and how to position yourself, you need to start by understanding what is AI actually replacing right now. Tasks like research, summaries, and early stage analysis are already automated. Work that used to take days now happens in minutes. Clients are starting to bring their work in-house using AI, which means selling those services will become harder over time. If you hold onto those offerings without evolving them, you're putting yourself at risk, at a huge risk. But this doesn't mean your value disappears. It means your role shifts. Instead of selling research and reporting, you shift to, I help derive insights, guide decisions, and help implement changes. Now you're not replaceable. So AI is replacing low-level analytical work, but it's increasing demand for people who can derive insights, guide, and really help organizations manage and benefit broadly from AI. Next, where companies, your clients, actually struggle with AI. Even though AI is powerful, most companies still aren't getting real, far-reaching results from it. So what's actually holding them back? I hear this all the time from companies. We've rolled out AI tools across the team, but we've only seen pockets of improvements or we've seen chaos ensued. And if that sounds familiar, it should, because I've heard the exact same thing before with CRM systems, ERP implementations, and just about every major tech rollout over the past 30 years. See, it's not an issue of access. The problem is implementation for company-wide adoption, meaningful workflow changes, and automations, and real bottom-line impact. There's a great piece from Harvard Business Review that describes this as the last mile problem of AI, referring to the last mile problem in telecommunication when you had this amazing infrastructure, but you have to get that infrastructure to the home or to the business. Companies are seeing pockets of productivity, individuals using AI to move faster, but that value rarely translates across the organization. Why? Because the surrounding systems haven't changed. See, AI can generate a contract in minutes, but it still sits in a 2-week legal review queue because workflows haven't been redesigned. On top of this, knowledge is often siloed, and many in the organization resist shifts that threaten how work has traditionally been done. So as far as AI implementations are concerned, you end up with companies that are pilot rich but transformation poor, with little coordination or governance. Next, the new consulting opportunity, bridging the gap. And if that's where companies are stuck, it naturally leads to a bigger opportunity. Who actually helps them move from experimentation to results? The largest companies will hire the McKinseys or the PwCs of the world to bridge that gap. But what about the rest, mid-size and smaller companies that can't afford those firms and don't have the internal process maturity to figure things out on their own? Let me walk you through an example. Let's take a mid-sized company investing heavily in HR tech. AI is writing job descriptions. Another tool is screening applications. Another is running video interviews. And another tool is building dashboards for the C-suite. On paper, it looks impressive. Processes that used to take weeks are now taking days. But then leadership looks at the outcomes. Are they hiring better people? Is performance improving? Is retention going up? And the answers are no. The process got faster, but the results did not get better. And in most organizations, no one owns that gap. That is where your opportunity is, because you're already an HR specialist who understands the outcomes that good HR is supposed to drive. And because you're also ahead on AI, you can step in and guide that transition from tools and experimentation to execution and outcomes at scale. You become extremely valuable. That is exactly what companies like this are looking for. Specialized consultants who understand both the domain, in this case HR, and how to leverage AI to redesign the entire process, not just automate pieces of it. By auditing the workflow, fixing broken handoffs between tools and teams, and aligning AI-driven decisions with actual outcomes like performance and retention. That gap between what AI can do and what companies can actually execute is exactly where consultants become more valuable than ever. I can tell you that in my own consultancies, we made a concerted effort to provide enterprise-level knowledge and service even when we were serving only smaller clients. This was a key factor in driving our growth. If you can bring enterprise-level AI service to your smaller clients, you'll probably be driving the growth of your consulting company as well. AI first versus AI enhanced. Before we wrap up, I want to make a distinction. The difference between what I call AI first consulting and AI enhanced consulting. Do I need to become an AI expert to stay relevant, or should I just keep doing what I do and add AI on top? That is where a lot of people get stuck because they think there's only one way to approach this. In reality, there are two valid paths. Let's start off with AI first consulting. This is where most of the value that you bring to clients comes through guidance on AI specifically, as in the example above about helping clients coordinate AI workflows across teams and meet company-level objectives. In this way, you'll be emulating the type of higher-level services that the bigger consultancies are providing to their clients and that we discussed earlier. In the second AI-enhanced consulting, you're using AI to enhance your service delivery, but most of the value that you bring to clients still comes from your subject matter expertise outside of AI. For example, an IT consultant could use a specialized AI tool to determine the optimal network configuration for their clients, but most of the value comes from the networking expertise and implementation itself rather than sophisticated AI workflows. And both of these types of consultants can use AI for more internal operational efficiencies, such as configuring Google Notebook LM to capture your experience, your case studies, and frameworks so you can generate highly customized proposals in minutes instead of hours. Whether your approach is AI first or AI enhanced, you'll put your business in the best position for survival and growth by combining three things: continuing to learn about AI technology, expanding your knowledge within your vertical as you always have, and keeping delivering value for your clients as your top priority. And if you're serious about making that transition, the next step is getting your foundation right. In the next video, I break down exactly how to start and structure your consulting business in today's market.